Healing the masculine wounds by reconnecting with our North European ancestors, our North European spiritual traditions that existed here and were always native here to these lands, that eventually got slaughtered from our own lands, displaced from our own lands through religious genocides and all of that. It is also the practice of animism and shamanism in order for us to really reconnect with our primal energies and our nature and true authentic inner self. Healing the masculine wounds by climbing the second mountain in our life. These journeys of initiation and divination to become the masculine man we were always meant to be. It is also moving beyond the superficial things of what modern day masculinity is being preached on the internet. And although that all might be just like the icing on the cake, but first we need to bake this cake, which is of course the process of reconnecting with our inner self. So, where do we begin? It's not only about sitting in front of a tree for 9 whole days in order to find our inner wisdom. This is also, of course, the process of sacrifices and to suffer and to face the shadows of our own world. The world that we see nowadays, but also the shadows and the darkness that exist within us. Our own shadow side, the dark night of the soul, or facing our own inner demons, the voids that were developed within our childhood traumas, the emotional abuse, the emotional neglect and all of that. And right now, man seems to be objectified based on their wealth, their status, their success and reputation in the world. And the only worth that we have as men is of course based on our productivity and accomplishment. So therefore we are always outside focused, but then within this process we can also neglect another very important aspect of our true self. So how does this all refer to? Like the North European consciousness, they have been seeded all over the world by our ancestors. Think about the Scandinavian, the Vikings. They were the sailors and the merchant traders who ventured out all around Europe and even United States, and who brought also their religious practices and their animistic point of view together with the Native Americans as well. That was like all in the first industrial revolution. And the first industrial revolution from the agricultural era eventually evolved in the era of commerce and trade. Think about the Dutch Golden Age, who established the first global corporation in the world through the maritime endeavors and the merchant traders and the time of the colonization and all of that. So our ancestors have given us an enormous amount of foundation we can continue to build upon. Now, what exactly is, of course, like, what is the problem in today's world? The problem in today's world is that of course, like, of psychological and spiritual warfare. I made countless of other videos about that, but I think it's very obvious, I think it's very clear that the world we know as today is coming to some sort of a collapse. It might be all at once, or maybe it will be over time, that we are in a major transition or transformational phase of moving into a new kind of era. Now, it's also like the time that a lot of these kind of global powers and control systems are kind of like coming to an end as well, because humanity suddenly starts to realize, like, wait a minute, we are 97% of the population kind of like carrying or living underneath this global pyramid scheme or global Ponzi scheme in order to finance the uber rich and the global elites. And if we all recognize the type of power that exist within us, and we decide not longer to participate in this soul-sucking rat race, and where the financial system is basically being weaponized against humanity and the human soul and spirit, we decide to simply walk away from that, then of course the system cannot longer continue to exist. That is kind of like one of the outside shadow forces that exist within this world. But at the other side of the spectrum, we also see a world that is emerging, where different states of consciousness and where the veil is being lifted, where we can reconnect with the old ways, the old gods that were being worshipped and that were being worked together with by our ancestors. That world is also opening up towards for us, because we can reconnect with something primal that still exists within us. It's kind of like the revival of the old ways, the old traditionals. Now, why is this now more important than ever, especially from the North European perspective? Because all North European countries, they are like a melting pots of different kind of cultures. I think it's great, it's amazing, and we should have that. A lot of people from all over the world should be able to live together, and we should see that planet Earth is the house for everyone, and we are all citizens of planet Earth. But a lot of people, they think in a different way. They have their old perspective on the world. A lot of spiritual people can join a religion, but a lot of religious people, they are not very spiritual, because they can't really relate to a different perspective than their own dogma, their own construct of beliefs, where their system of beliefs is kind of like that of a goldfish swimming around in his tiny little base, so to speak, and he can't look outside of that perspective. And everyone who has a different perspective is basically like the enemy. So from a lot of different spiritual beliefs and religions we see here in North European countries, another thing that we're going to see is that it is part of the agenda, you almost could say, is that humanity is being played against each other. And you could almost say, well, this could also be like a part of this global elite power control systems, where we have all these hierarchies in the world that is creating more conflicts and restlessness against each other, so we can fight each other. And I think that's kind of like the things that we have to start seeing and looking beyond that. That is kind of like the outside forces like we see in the modern day society. Things around our social system, political, economical systems. The endless financial struggles of trying to live paycheck to paycheck, which is of course like exhausting us, causing more mental health, emotional, spiritual issues, because we are exhausting ourselves just to make a bloody living. And even when we feel like, you know, we are supposed to have a different kind of life, we have this conflict within ourselves. Yeah, but I gotta do the things in order to survive, basically. But then the human spirit is kind of like nagging, but hey, we are not supposed to live like this. We are supposed to live in a different kind of way. So we can also experience that conflict that exists within us, like the conflict, the war that exists within us between the mind of logic and that of the heart. And I think we feed the wolf of the heart and not only the wolf of the ego. Eventually the wolf of the heart will start to thrive. But that is really kind of like, what are we feeding ourselves with? Are we feeding ourselves with distractions and addictions that is lowering our energy and our consciousness, which is very easily accessible? Or do we build the discipline of reconnecting with our own nature and our own spiritual practices, and build perhaps a practice in shamanism and spiritual healing and all of these beautiful things? Are we exercising the body through nutrition and wellness and fitness? Or are we just distracting ourselves with a highly processed diets and junk food and all of that, that is also kind of course like lowering your energy in this world. And the more we build these disciplines that can expand our vibrational bank accounts, that can be of course the part of our own inner healing journey as well, where we can start to face the shadows and the voids that still lives within us of our generational traumas that has been passed over by our previous generations that we are here now to break, so we can't pass it over to our upcoming generations. So that's of course like one of the things that we are dealing with right now in order for us to build everything that exists underneath this surface. So the things that are eventually coming to the surface, like the material world, that is of course also in align with who we really are, is that we become fully, completely integrated. So if any of this truly resonates with you, of course, then feel free to leave a comment below, subscribe, like, share, but of course also feel free to join our community at Germanic Wellness, where we dive further into our North European spiritual traditions, so we can heal the past, optimize the present, so we can conquer the future in this whole new digital era we are moving in right now, so we can stay balanced within ourselves in this upcoming age that we are in right now. But also, I think it's also important that we as men come together in a soul tribe for those who are on this spiritual journey to become a better man, a better person, a better human being, so we can build these healthy relationships between each other and stand together, because that's really how we can unite and become stronger in this world that does everything it can within his power to isolate each other. That is of course is going to affect our mental health as well. So now it's the time when we get together and become stronger and become like a unified force, is where the drop of water of consciousness reunites with his ocean of the divine. So I look forward to meet you very, very soon in our community.